The talk around Ibrox has taken on a familiar tone again as attention quietly shifts toward the winter window, and there is a sense among the support that something noteworthy may be forming beneath the surface, with movement beginning to stir elsewhere and situations changing faster than expected. One former Rangers midfielder has found himself drifting back into the wider conversation at a moment when the squad is being assessed from every angle. It is the sort of development that does not arrive with a trumpet blast, but instead grows through whispers, context, and timing, and that alone is enough to pull the interest of those who know what he once brought to the club. Joe Aribo's situation down south has reached a point where separation feels inevitable rather than speculative. After informing Southampton that he is open to a January departure, the landscape around his future looks very different from even a few months ago. His time there has lacked rhythm, influence, and continuity, especially since the club dropped out of the Premier League, a setback that seemed to knock the momentum out of his career just as he was trying to establish himself at that level. A second relegation in quick succession only deepened that sense of stall, and his role within the squad steadily diminished until he was barely part of the matchday picture at all. The contrast with his spell in Glasgow could hardly be sharper. At Rangers, Aribo played his most fluent football, found consistency, and delivered moments that are still spoken about with genuine affection. His goal in the Europa League final remains etched in collective memory, not simply because of the occasion, but because it reflected the composure and quality he brought during that era. That connection has never really faded among the support, even as his career path led him elsewhere, and any suggestion of a possible return naturally stirs emotion alongside analysis. From a practical standpoint, the conditions now align in a way they did not before. His contract is entering its final half year, and Southampton appear prepared to listen to offers in the region of £1.5 million. That figure immediately places the discussion into a realistic bracket, especially for a player who would arrive already understanding the demands, the environment, and the expectation that comes with wearing the shirt. Interest from abroad has been mentioned, but the idea of Ibrox reopening its doors is no longer fanciful chatter, particularly when his playing time has been so limited and his need for regular football so clear. There is, however, a personal layer to consider. When Aribo left Glasgow, he spoke openly about stepping outside familiar surroundings as a necessary part of his growth. Moving away from comfort was a conscious decision, one he felt was required to test himself and push forward. That context still matters, and it raises the question of whether returning north would feel like regression or recalibration. Careers are rarely linear, though, and what once felt like a final chapter can later become a logical next step, especially when the football itself has stalled. Despite his reduced minutes this season, his condition and professionalism have not been questioned internally. Training performances have remained sharp, and when opportunities have arrived, his contribution has been noted positively. That only sharpens the sense that a fresh environment could reignite him quickly. Rangers, for their part, are not operating from sentiment alone. Any decision in January will be framed around balance, depth, and suitability for the system, not nostalgia, but familiarity can be an advantage when time is short and fixtures are unforgiving. While that discussion simmers, Rangers have also received a welcome shift of fortune on the international front as they brace for one of the most demanding stretches of the campaign. December and early January are already heavy with domestic and European commitments, and the prospect of losing multiple first-team players to international duty had been a looming concern. Plans were being shaped around absence and adjustment, particularly in midfield, where continuity is vital to tempo and control. Going into the period, there was an expectation that two key squad members would depart for the Africa Cup of Nations, leaving gaps that would need careful management. Both had recent international involvement and enough recognition to suggest selection was likely, which meant preparation for their absence had quietly begun. That outlook has now shifted in a meaningful way. Only one will be heading to the tournament after Ivory Coast chose to leave Mohamed Diamande out of their final group. For Diamande, the omission is a setback on a personal level, especially given his ambition to establish himself more firmly at international level. The reasoning appears rooted in competition for places and the desire for continuity rather than any sharp drop in form. His last involvement came during summer friendlies, and without subsequent appearances in qualifiers or autumn matches, he found himself edged out when final decisions were made. From a Rangers perspective, however, the outcome reshapes the coming weeks in a far more positive light. Keeping Diamande in Glasgow preserves a central presence that has grown increasingly important to how the side functions. His energy, discipline, and understanding of his role have allowed others around him to play with freedom, and removing that piece during such a dense run of fixtures would have carried risk. Although suspension rules him out of an upcoming European tie, his immediate return thereafter ensures availability for key domestic matches, including the high-intensity encounter against Hibernian and the build-up to the Old Firm clash in early January. That fixture against Celtic on January 3rd often carries weight far beyond 90 minutes, influencing momentum, belief, and the broader title narrative. Having Diamande available through that period offers stability at a time when fine margins matter most. Rangers will still lose a defensive option to international duty, and that absence will be felt. But the overall impact has been softened significantly compared to earlier expectations. What initially looked like a double blow has become a partial reprieve, and in a season shaped by timing as much as talent, that adjustment could prove crucial. With squad depth tested, transfer possibilities emerging, and the calendar offering little mercy, Rangers find themselves recalibrating plans on multiple fronts at once, weighing experience against need and opportunity against risk as the heart of the campaign continues to unfold. As the calendar edges closer to the opening of the January window, the sense inside and around Ibrox is that decisions made in the coming weeks could define the rest of the campaign. Rangers are navigating a stretch where there is little room for error, and every selection, every adjustment carries added weight. With momentum so closely tied to squad stability, the focus has turned toward how the club can maintain intensity without overextending key players who have already been pushed hard across domestic and European commitments. The reduction of international disruption offers a platform to build continuity, particularly in midfield, where Rangers have at times looked strongest when roles are clearly defined and partnerships are allowed to settle. The coaching staff see value in consistency during this period, especially when fixtures come in rapid succession and recovery time is minimal. Keeping familiar profiles in the center of the pitch allows the side to control games rather than simply react to them, and that approach becomes essential as opponents raise their level during the festive run. At the same time, depth cannot be ignored. Injuries, suspensions, and fatigue are inevitable over such a congested schedule, and Rangers are fully aware that relying on the same core week after week carries risk. That is where the broader January conversation ties back in, not as a headline grab, but as a strategic necessity. Any addition would need to arrive ready, capable of stepping in without extended adaptation, and mentally prepared for the pressure that comes with chasing success on multiple fronts. That context is why familiar names continue to resurface. Supporters understand that January rarely delivers sweeping rebuilds, but rather targeted moves designed to protect balance and momentum, bringing in someone who understands the environment, the expectation, and the style of play can offer insurance rather than upheaval. Whether or not a reunion materializes, the logic behind exploring such options reflects a club aware of its own demands and limitations. Attention remains fixed on the immediate fixtures, though, where Rangers are being challenged to maintain sharpness while rotating sensibly. European commitments have added a tactical edge to squad management, forcing careful consideration of who starts, who rests, and who is introduced from the bench. These decisions are less about individual preference and more about sustaining performance levels across competitions without sacrificing control in either. The atmosphere within the squad is described as focused rather than frantic. Players recognize the importance of the coming weeks and understand that results now shape the psychological landscape of the second half of the season. Confidence built through December can carry forward just as dropped points can linger. That awareness has sharpened training standards with sessions geared toward efficiency and precision rather than volume, reflecting the realities of a packed calendar. The Premiership race itself adds another layer. Every point feels magnified, especially with head-to-head meetings on the horizon that could swing momentum decisively. Rangers know that entering those fixtures on solid footing is not optional. It requires not only tactical clarity, but also physical readiness. And that is where squad continuity becomes more than a preference. It becomes a necessity. Behind the scenes, planning for January continues alongside match preparation. The club is assessing contract situations, minutes played, and positional depth with a clear sense of what is sustainable. While supporters often focus on who might arrive, there is equal attention on ensuring key contributors are protected from burnout. Decisions are being framed around the second half of the campaign rather than short-term reaction. The evolving situation also underscores how quickly football narratives can shift. What once looked like a looming loss of key personnel has turned into a manageable adjustment, offering Rangers breathing space at a critical point. That breathing space does not remove pressure, but it allows for more calculated choices rather than emergency responses. As December unfolds, the message within the dressing room is about control and composure. Rangers are not chasing perfection, but they are demanding consistency, an approach that can carry them through the most intense phase of the season. With domestic priorities pressing and European ambitions still alive, each week brings its own test of depth and mentality. The coming matches will reveal how well that balance has been struck. Rangers have the opportunity to assert rhythm, protect their core, and enter the new year with momentum intact. Whether through stability, selective reinforcement, or simply managing what is already in place, the weeks ahead are shaping up as a defining chapter, one where careful planning and on-pitch execution must align if the club is to sustain its push at the top. That alignment between planning and performance becomes even more important as pressure from outside inevitably grows. Expectations around Rangers never ease, especially when the margins at the top remain tight and every match is treated as a measure of intent as much as outcome. players are well aware that consistency now is what separates a strong run from a meaningful challenge, and that awareness has translated into a sharper edge during matches where patience and discipline are tested just as much as creativity. There is also a clear understanding that leadership on the pitch will be central during this phase. When rotations occur and younger players are asked to step in, experienced figures must set the tempo and manage moments within games that threaten to slip away. That balance between intensity and control has defined Rangers at their best, and maintaining it through a demanding schedule is seen as a collective responsibility rather than one placed on individual shoulders. As the season continues to turn, the sense around Ibrox is not one of reaction, but of readiness. Rangers are positioning themselves to absorb challenges rather than be disrupted by them, knowing that small advantages gained now can echo deep into the spring. With key fixtures approaching and the transfer window drawing closer, everything feels interconnected, each decision feeding into the broader objective of staying competitive, composed, and firmly in control of their own trajectory. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. There's been a fair bit of chatter buzzing around Scottish football this week after Celtic's midfield maestro Callum McGregor let slip a comment that's got tongues wagging across the terraces. In a recent chat, McGregor apparently opened up on why he never made the switch to Rangers. And let's just say it wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement of the Ibrox side. That's why I didn't go to Rangers, he's reported to have said, before adding a few choice words about the team being, well, a bit on the weak side. Naturally, the remark has sent social media into overdrive. I assume Rangers fans are scowling into their screens and analysts are scratching their heads, and the sort of late-night phone-in shows you'd expect to hear in Glasgow are buzzing with speculation. Is this a sly dig at the club's recent struggles? A hint that McGregor never fancied being part of the so-called other side of Glasgow, or just the midfielder being his usual candid self? Nobody's quite sure, but it's all anyone's talking about. Celtic supporters, meanwhile, are lapping it up, seeing McGregor's words as proof that their skipper is loyal to the hoops and knows exactly where his heart lies. Some have even joked that Rangers might need more than a few transfers if they hope to tempt a player of his caliber. The murmurs in the pub and online forums suggest that this isn't just a casual slip. It could be the beginning of a proper media feud, one that might flare up every time the old firm clash comes round again. What's especially juicy is that McGregor didn't just say he stayed away. He went the extra mile by implying that Rangers simply aren't strong enough to warrant a move. And in a league where pride, history, and bragging rights matter as much as goals, that kind of comment doesn't stay buried. The football gossip mills are already spinning, imagining headlines, debates, and perhaps even a cheeky response from someone at Ibrox. For now, though, it's all talk. No transfers, no official statements, just the tantalizing hint that one of Scotland's most consistent performers sees the green and white stripes as home, and perhaps more importantly, views Rangers as a team not quite at his level. And in the world of Scottish football, a line like that is bound to ripple for weeks to come. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.